Well, if you're watching live, Mr. Barton George and I are setting up for a special episode of Linux Unplugged, and we will be mumbling shortly after this. So, what's the best way for me? Oh, yeah, I know what I'll do. Haha. So, let's see here. Let me relay that. That's probably exactly what I should be doing. Is letting people know what's going on.
Okay, are you back?
Yep, I am, and just about ready to go too. Let's see, letting. Okay, I'm letting people know about the change of plans because that way people know what's going on.
Yes.
Plug-in Linux Fest today. I know I always talk to you about it. You know, I'm a fan. I can't help it.
I know.
Really, it's just because we got great breweries up in Bellingham, so it's a good excuse to come up and try.
That's a good thing.
Getting. I like this video. I don't know if you have any other suggestions for like stuff I could show, visuals I could show of the XPS 13, but I have the Dell YouTube channel one, the XPS 13 laptop 2018 product overview, which just has a bunch of really great shots. So I figure I'll show that a little bit while we're talking about it.
Okay.
And I've got links to your blog, to your Twitter profile, and to the XPS 13 Developer Edition. Just the developer page where it has all of the Sputnik type models. So those are in the show notes as well. So if you can think of anything later on after the show, just email it to me, and I will add it before we get her published.
Let me see. Yeah, so when were they? You already have the links?
Yep, I got the links to all that stuff, to all the stuff I mentioned. I did my homework there and got all the specs in the show notes and all that kind of stuff, and your Twitter account. But yeah, I think that covers it.
Let me write these down again. So what were they?
Okay, I got
the links you have now.
I have all those links. So I have links to your blog.
Oh, I know, but I want to write those down so I remember that.
Okay, so I've got a link to it's I actually don't know if this is the right page, but it's the Dell.com page for the XPS 1339. I actually think that's just the regular Windows version.
You can go in. So you have my blog.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, right. Yeah, you have it. Okay.
There's a link in there that'll has it pre-selected to the Ubuntu stuffs.
Uh-huh. I see that. All right, I will use that link. Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, okay. So I will put that. Okay, that is the one I had. I guess I just let me read this. Maybe I just thought it was the Windows version. Yeah, oh yeah, they say Ubuntu. Oh yeah. Okay, I have that. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, okay, and then I've got your Twitter as well. And let's see, what else? Anything else I should...
I don't know if let me think. Is there... Get the page. Oh, the other one is the Dell.com/Sputnik.
Oh, okay.
Because that'll take you to the overview of the line.
Yep, that's right. And I did actually have that in there for a brief moment, and then I took it out. So it's just /Sputnik? That's easy.
Or you can also go /developers. Yeah.
Oh, developers too is a good one. That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nice and easy. All right. Good. That's going in there too. Okay. Very good. That's a /developers. That's a good one. That must have taken some convincing. I mean, that feels like some prime real estate. I like that.
That's the sort of the good and the bad is at Dell we really don't have a lot of people working with developers, so it's not like people are.
I see.
Yeah,
makes sense. Oh, good, you brought the squeaky toy in here, the one toy that I can't have you playing with while I'm on air. You got dogs, right, Barton?
Yes, they're in with the kids right now. So it's a snow day today for us.
Oh, what?
Ice on the road. So
what?
Everybody is here.
That's a thing.
Not much snow, but
that's a thing.
Yeah. Oh, I tell you. Yeah.
Like, what were the temps? What were the temps last night?
Like mid to high 20s.
All right, that's pretty legit.
So it's really about about the precipitation and then on the roads itself.
Yeah, and the buses and all that. Here, chew on this. This is silent. Of course he doesn't like the chew toy I got him. Of course. He wants me to play tug of war with him. It's pretty cute actually. All
I
right,
believe it.
let's get a cracking. I have one more thing to start, and then I'm ready to crack a lack, as the kids say.
That's
Snow
what
day.
they do say. Do they?
A snow day. So what's the temperature
Yeah, I
now?
guess they call it an ice day, I guess. It's probably like, I'll just double check what it says here, but it's still high 20s, low 30s.
Wow. Honestly, I thought I'd never really got that cold there. That you were
Oh, no, it does.
Austin
Wait
was
just a
going to be my
minute, guys.
salvation
Wait.
in the winter. Because today it's like in the mid.
Holy crap. Can this be? Hold on. You know what it says for a low tonight?
What?
And this is Austin? 18.
Whoa.
That is weird. That doesn't happen very much often.
No, I imagine not. Wow. I won't even rub it in that it's like nearly 60 degrees here. I'm not even going to mention that. I just won't even mention that it's nearly 60 degrees because that'd be awful.
Wow. Right now it's 26.
Wow. Okay. That's you remember Noah, he came with me when we visited, and yeah, with the wind chill in North Dakota yesterday, it was negative 42 at his place.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
I
like
would have brought my bathing suit if I knew that.
That's like a life challenge. I don't even know how he gets through that. But he does somehow. He does. All right. Well, let's get started here. So in 3, 2.
Oh, wait, so we're doing this for real? Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
You're fine. No,
Go ahead.
It's still going to be basically like we're doing the same thing. So,
Okay.
In 3, 2. So joining me to talk about the new XPS 13 is the horse's mouth, essentially. It's Mr. Barton George. Barton, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you. Yes, horse's mouth.
You don't mind if I call you a horse's mouth, do
Oh,
you?
I love that one. I'm going to put that on my business card.
It's not a comment on your physical appearance. It's just a comment on your authority on the topic.
Oh, authoritarianism.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I like that. Uh-huh.
Well, there is one source I go to when there's a new developer edition, and it's your blog. And I don't know how you guys did it. I mean, you're supposed to be screwing this up by now, but it looks like the new, what is this, the 7th gen XPS 13 is
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 7th gen.
knocking it out of the park.
Which is
impressed.
a bit confusing because we're one behind the Intel
Yes.
generations.
I
right?
wasn't
So
going to say it,
featuring
but
the 8th generation.
yes.
Yeah, and so I got that on Twitter or something. People
Yeah.
saying, "Wait, shouldn't that be the 8th generation?" And
Yeah.
So
Now, you know what? I have a feeling
Anyway,
with all
but
of the Meltdown Inspector news, you may actually catch up eventually, or they'll catch you or something.
and pass them,
Yeah.
man. I think that's
I think that's very likely.
This will just set our sights low.
Well, so the XPS 13, it's like the laptop in the Linux world that really needs no introduction anymore, which is a pretty remarkable achievement if you think about it. And it's been around for how many years now? Is this the 5th or 7th year?
With it, no, the 5th anniversary was end of November last year. So
Okay.
and by 5th anniversary, I mean the first one came out then. We had about 6 or 7 months before that we really
beta.
flew to market with that as far as going from PowerPoint to product. So, but yeah, we do the counting from the first product ship.
Well,
So
so
5 years.
still what seems like the best screen on any laptop in the market. I'm surprised that it's still just like, I mean, nobody really seems to be touching it. And it's not me that's even saying that anymore. You probably saw this, but Linus Torvalds posted on Google Plus that when he tried out all the different laptops in this category, the XPS 13, not only was it the one he went with, the developer edition, but he liked it so much that he also bought a second one for his daughter. So
Yeah,
that's
no,
pretty high praise.
Well, I think it went. Yeah. No, exactly. You're right. I do remember that.
Yeah.
That kind of thing didn't go unnoticed by us. Believe you me.
I would imagine. So it really is the laptop that needs no introduction. But I'll be honest. You're supposed to screw it up eventually, but it just seems to be getting better. It's got an i7 in a 7500U i7 up all the way up to that 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gig SSD, 4K screen, under
We actually have
$2,000.
1 terabyte option as well.
Oh, okay. Okay, well that probably puts it over the $2,000 mark. But that's but it starts around what, 900? So that's the entry
Yeah,
price. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And I should also say we're keeping the previous one. So if you give them numbers, so one's the 9370,
Right.
the other one is the 9360, and we don't use those numbers usually for marketing, but I use that.
You can search on
just so that-
Google on those terms, and the right ones will come up.
Yes. Also, if you go to Dell.com and check on, uh, I think you can look on Developer Edition or XPS 13. It'll show both of those.
Ah, okay. And why are you
So
guys
in other words, we're keeping,
why?
as opposed to in the past where one has replaced the other, and then you're asking why is that, and that's because they're at two different price points. They're not that far apart, but there are folks who are going to say, hey, quad core, I don't really need that. I'd rather save the money and get something that is more appropriate for what
Yeah.
I'm doing.
Yeah, and I mean, I have a 5th generation XPS 13 Developer
Oh, well, there
Edition,
you go.
and it's still a great machine. So I could imagine the 6th generations would make a lot of people pretty happy. You also have a non 4K version with a 1080 screen. How well do those do? Do the 4K sell a lot better, or are you selling more of the 1080s? Do you know? Can you say?
Well, I don't have the actual split, but we get people who want, who don't want to drive a monitor that kind of resolution. And
Right.
the other thing is, just tangentially, whatever we offer config wise, there's all these folks who say, dang, that's, if I would have bought it if it just had this config. And so that's one thing we're compiling is, what are the configs that people are saying that they would want?
Mhm.
What combination, and then we'll go with, see if we can add it, because we get a time or two during the life cycle where we look at, well, does it make sense to drop or add a what you call it, a config? And that's the point where we go and we look at the
Yeah.
how well is this selling versus that one.
Yeah.
And so if you get one that's only selling 5%, you drop that and you think, okay, what else might be something that people would enjoy?
So along those lines, I've noticed something that's actually the absence of something that you guys are doing, and it has to be intentional. So I want to pick your brain about it because
Okay.
no, it's something that I think other OEMs need to take a lesson from. And it's when I get a Dell XPS 13 and I boot it up, it's not Dell Ubuntu. It's not like a custom version of the Mate desktop that's been themed for Dell and has Chrome pre-installed and Eclipse IDE ready to develop and push applications to the cloud. It's just Ubuntu. It's about as vanilla with a few changes to here and there that are probably just for like driver support or whatnot. I mean, it's obvious at this point that this is a very intentional decision. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, although people did say when we're collecting an initial feedback, we did get a lot of people before we launched it. A lot of people saying, "Hey, I just want vanilla Ubuntu."
Mm-hmm.
But we thought, "Hey, we can really add some value here by doing a couple things. We're going to pick the utilities and tools that people want most, and we'll load those, and we'll also go and we're going to create this thing called the Cloud Launcher, which
Oh, really?
allows you to take LXC and um, create what you create on the laptop as a micro cloud, and then push that app to the cloud. And we're going to do this thing called the Platform Launcher, which is going to allow you to take software stacks that are pre-created and
Hmm.
load them up
Yeah.
with dependencies and everything, get them good to go.
I'm seeing other manufacturers do that currently. This is something they're embarking on.
Yeah, and so we went down that path. What we found though was the utilities and tools people really wanted to pick their own. That wasn't much value add, so we stopped that. The um, profile tool turned out to be a heck of a lot harder than we thought. So that on top of the fact that we didn't have people clamoring for it, we put that aside. And in the case of the Cloud Launcher, serendipitously, this company called Docker came along
Right.
and did what we were trying to do, right? Is get a way to write an application that you have on your laptop and then get it to the cloud. So we started out with these grand ideas of value add that the customers would love, and in the end, we're at that vanilla point that you just mentioned.
Interesting that the developer community seems to be of the mindset of, if we want it, we'll just load it ourselves, which is less work for you. That's like the best. Yeah. That's the best of right.
Oh yeah, no, exactly.
That's interesting.
I think just in general, just sort of zooming back, targeting this at the developer community has been great in that They offer lots of feedback. They also can certain issues they can or tweaks they can work amongst themselves to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as long as you speak speak honestly and are transparent, there is a lot of there's a lot of feedback and help that they're willing to give as well.
Well,
So,
what issue,
yeah,
one issue that comes to mind, that it's the number one question I get when I review an XPS product. It's about the coil whine, which is not unique to the developer edition of the XPS 13. It's something that can happen because of just I would assume, the compact electronics, but maybe you can talk about that more. But it wasn't until I started reviewing it for Linux users that I started hearing about it all the time.
yeah.
So how is that in the new release? And were the Linux customer base, or the developer customer base, as you put it, were they particularly demanding in that kind of issue in a way that the Windows users weren't? Like, where does that all stand today?
Well, so can't go into too much detail because it involves third parties, et cetera. And anything we say, oh, it's perfect now, and then somebody has an issue with it,
yeah.
that's not going to look good. And somebody, no matter how perfect anything is, something's going to come up.
All right, so we got a big couch here, but I follow you.
Yeah, no. I think it was a small subset of folks. That being said, if you were one of those lucky subsets, that wasn't a good thing. And I think too, there's also a tolerance level for people. So there's certain people that would whose parameters were more acute than what we set.
Sure.
Saving maybe you or I or somebody else would hear that same thing and say, oh, well, that just sort of sounds like what things normally sound like. And then there's other ones that were outside the normal boundary, and you'd say, oh yeah, that makes sense. So yes, we have taken steps to ameliorate that, and we'll that's basically what I'll say at this point.
Yeah,
and
I understand. I have a 5th gen, and I reviewed the 6th gen, and never had the problem myself. But I have worked extensively with small compact machines in audio production, and I know that it is an issue that can crop up. I've, for example, had 3 Intel NUCs actually hooked up to my mixer at one point, and 2 of them exhibited coil whines, and one of them didn't, same exact model. But it does sound like it's gotten worked on. I've been following some of the threads, and I've been seeing people talking about it. It does seem like things have gotten better from what I can observe. I wonder, though, down the road, am I being over cautious when I worry that maybe Linux users are not persnickety, but they're too demanding? Like, it seems like maybe we're high maintenance, or is it a good thing?
I think in general, and getting back to what I said a little while ago, as long as you treat developers fairly, they're okay with a certain amount of slack here and there. And I also find that oftentimes people Linux users will joke themselves as, hey, we're willing to, I'm not saying this of course this isn't in regards to anything we do, no, but they feel that, things have been so tough for so long. When things do get better, even if they're not 100% perfect, they're very happy.
If things tend to be trending in the right direction and there seems to be steady progress, then yeah, I think you're absolutely correct.
Yeah, and so I would say it's the opposite. Not that you're not going to get somebody who is persnickety, but I think in general the developer crowd seems to be much more understanding and willing to work with you, as long as you're working in good faith, you're being honest about what's going on, et cetera.
Well, let's see then. Let's shift gears.
And I think, and I'm just going to say one thing too. Sometimes it's tricky, with regards to honesty in that, or I shouldn't say honesty, but you always are honest. But as far as how much you reveal, in that it involves other partners as well and players. And so you can't, even if you wanted to come out and say, this is what's going on, it would involve other folks as well.
Yeah. I think everybody gets
issues,
that. Yeah, I think that's pretty understandable. Now, so let's shift gears and see if we can make things uncomfortable with a different partner, Canonical.
Oh, please
obviously.
do.
Yeah. Let's see if Now, you and I were sitting in a room together the moment it was announced. In fact, I was the person that delivered the news to you that Canonical was dropping Unity 7 and switching to the GNOME desktop.
Yeah.
How has
switching back.
Right. How has that been brewing inside internally? Because 1710's been out. I know that you're shipping 1604 currently still. Probably won't be shipping 1710 ever, because why would you? Especially with 1804 right around. Is 1804 looking like it's going to ship on Dell products? Is GNOME Desktop going to ship on Dell products? What's your answer for that?
I'll say that what we usually do is when we launch a new system, it comes with the LTS that is current at the time, right? So we don't, like you said, we won't do a 1710. We won't do an 1810 or a 1904 or something like that. We only do, we do best efforts, and we try to support people with issues they have in the interim releases. But the one that we're going to guarantee is the LTS that ships with it.
I mean, just, you don't even have to, not even talking about Dell, but just like your personal opinion, shipping a Linux desktop now for a while, working on this. How's Bart and George feeling about the transition to GNOME?
Well, so without knowing all the intricacies, because I'm sure there's all sorts of things. Oh, you didn't think about this and realize how it affects that.
But it does seem like a big switch for some, it really does affect a product you're shipping.
It does. And I think one thing is, as a company, you need to know when to hold them and when to fold them. Because one thing happens, and I've been in other companies that just keep pouring money into things long after it became obvious that it wasn't great benefit to the customer at that time, and it really wouldn't be going forward. And yet there is this desire sometimes to keep working at something long after it's been obvious that it's not the right move. So I think it's always tough. I mean, I say it as if that's an easy thing to do, but I do have a lot of respect for companies that early on say, you know what, this isn't going to happen. We're going to stop it. And so that's sort of the bigger picture. And so that within that, put that lens on it, I think it made sense to realize they had an awesome vision. They'd done quite a bit of work, and they weren't going to get there to the end.
Right. There seems to me, Barton, to be a similarity between what Canonical has done with their desktop. They went to Hacker News and other places and they said, "What do you want out of Ubuntu?" And people said, "Just ship stock GNOME. Just give me my basic applications." Sort of reminds me of what people said to Dell when they said, "Just ship stock Ubuntu. Just give me vanilla Ubuntu. I just want to load my own applications." Do you see a similarity there?
Yeah, and I think it's, once again, does it add value or not? Are you just putting bells and whistles that nobody cares about, and it comes across as bloatware? So I would see that there are certain things that are going to be value add, but oftentimes in the Linux world, it's stuff that you're going to pull down yourself, right? As opposed to if you're buying a Windows PC, having certain applications bundled with it really increases the value of the system.
Now, before I let you go, I have to ask you something that you're not going to have an answer to because you're not the processor guy. But I kind of have a tangential
42.
question. Right. Okay. Answered. No.
We're done. Thank you.
Is this assumption correct? If I am a Dell XPS 13 user, running the Ubuntu that was installed on there when I got the machine, am I likely eventually going to be able to just open up GNOME software and get microcode updates for Meltdown? I know you might not know the intricacies of how it's going to get patched, but the firmware delivery mechanism through GNOME software is something that Dell has gotten uniquely good at. And I wonder if what I'm trying to get at is how much awareness does it have at the Bart and George level, this functionality? Like, how much of a topic of a conversation is this particular feature? Because it seems hyper important right now. The firmware updating through GNOME software, that working with FWupd, sorry to be vague, but that's a specific question. How much is that at your level?
Hardly any at all, right? So we have folks that are, knee deep in everything Ubuntu and working on all this. And yes, they would be, we have folks like that on the team, but my role as chief plate spinner doesn't go that far. So
does it come up though, the feature as a topic of conversation, or is it just an assumed baked in thing now?
So I can't answer that specifically, and not meaning that I'm not allowed to, but I just don't know. And I know because there's a separate team, as you can imagine, technical meetings internally about what are we doing with Ubuntu as far as from a technical point of view,
because it also involves your server products and not just the XPS 13. So I totally get it. The reason I wanted to ask is because the one thing the audience is going to say after this interview is, how come you didn't ask him about Meltdown or Spectre? And so I had to try to get as close to something I thought you'd be able to answer in that regard, unless you want to talk about
we put it in bite-sized chunks, but the answer is I don't know.
I mean, if you want to get into x86 architecture nuances with me, I mean, we could do it, but it doesn't seem like that'd probably be either one of our power areas.
I was hoping we'd get into the Spark chip. Really. I think. That's or the old RISC MIP chips.
Right.
MIPS chips.
Right. Absolutely.
A tear is coming into my eye right now as I think back.
So what trends is Barton George watching in the Linux world that he thinks will be something that Dell needs to respond to in the nearish term future?
Oh gosh, putting me on the spot.
Yeah, it's sort of like put your strategy hat on.
Well, I think for us, it's much more. You go back to that what is the customer looking for, and we just take what's out there and make sure it runs without a hitch on our system. So where Dell is looking at is, okay, how do we make, from a hardware point of view, how do we make systems that are continuously better for our customers? And then given that, how do we take what's out there in Linux and make it work on the laptops? So I think we're much closer focused in, also because, as I said, that's a lot of the stuff that the customers in particular will do and will decide on their own.
Do you have any sense of what Linux could do better to be more successful in large corporations as an actual viable desktop OS? Is it an application issue? Take Dell, for example. Even if you're at Dell, you have to, even if you have a Linux machine, you still at some point you functionally need a Windows machine to fully participate on the network. Is that an entrenched, irretractable position that Windows has etched out? Or sitting in at your desk at Dell, could you foresee a day when even corporations as large as Dell could be shipping Linux on all of their desktops?
Well, I think I'll answer it that some of the key things that are missing is you got internal apps, right? Whether they're name tools or your expense reports, etc., that need to be
rewritten if they're going to be on Linux.
Need to be right, exactly. And so there's all that, as well as you say, this is we as many large companies run on Windows, and we need to have all those applications. And so, for right now, they're great developer boxes within ourselves, as you say, within a large corporation, but they aren't general purpose machines. So that, I think that's going to be tough, that you're going to need to sort of, at least to begin with, figure out what use cases you can pick, and you don't want to overestimate the power of Linux to supplant everything else.
So don't overshoot, maybe. Because here's what I was kind of angling to is perhaps the strategy, or whatever you want to call it, or perhaps should the goal be, maybe the goalpost should now be a niche of the market that is large and growing and sophisticated. And should the discussion be more about retooling our desktops like GNOME to super serve a more sophisticated developer type audience? And maybe it's worth stop chasing that total new computer user, that fantasy Linux user, because it does seem like if we double down, if the Linux community could pull a Sputnik project and sort of just say, what would we build just for developers, we might have a lot of success there. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think that's what it's all about is sticking to your knitting, as they say. So it's iterative, right? You start
Mm,
small,
yes.
you're agile, you see what works and what doesn't works, as opposed to, by the year 20, what are we in now? 2022, we're going to be all 100% Linux on the desktop in our enterprise, and it's looking to expand beyond that. But as you say, the obvious targets to begin with are how can we do uh, a developer machine that keeps meeting more of the developers needs, or
Right.
scientists, engineering
Right.
scientists. Might we make a machine learning AI developer box that would have all those goodies, whatever those might be?
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
or do you
something
find out, once again, that it's, hey, whatever I want, I'll pull down myself, so I don't need anything
I
tailored
what
to
I feel like
machine learning?
what we're kind of getting is these users are generally capable enough of customizing their own system for their particular edge case if you give them the right base. Like, so take machine learning and AI. That's a different machine than an XPS 13, but it's a type of machine that Dell certainly does sell. And if you could tune that right, give them the platform or the tool, and then they take care of the software side of it. And so maybe you get really good at doing that for a couple of markets, and then once you really nail that, you move on to another market, and then you nail that one.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you look at what is value add in that area. Just like we said when we originally went out with this and asked people what they wanted, um, they did say vanilla. And like I said, then we said, well, no, but we'll even give you more than vanilla. We'll give you all sorts of swirls and chocolate chunks in there. Um, but yeah, to find out, say, once again, machine learning or people in the music industry or whatever it might be, what would you see as something that would make your life easier or better if we could provide it?
Now, my last question is crystalline silica material.
Oh, good
Wow.
gracious! Now
This
you're
isn't.
totally like,
This isn't. No, this is the quote. You would know because
yeah,
all retweets are you fully support them. You retweeted a quote right here, not painted
exactly.
white. The new Dell XPS. Don't get this wrong, everybody. It is not white. It is made of crystalline silica material that literally weaves the white color in like fabric in 9 composite layers.
Yeah, no, I tell you, you must be watching my tweets very carefully. I only
Seven.
retweeted that, what, an
I'm
hour
on there
ago or
right
so.
now.
You're
I'm
looking
on there
on.
right now. Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
At
There you
Barton
go.
808. I go there every day. At Barton 808, and all of our audience should too. Because if I were a betting man, dear audience, I would bet that there may be an update along the precision line soon, and that's one of my favorite lines. So keep an eye out at Barton 808.
I can neither confirm
No,
nor deny,
of course
wink,
not.
wink.
Of course not. Of
Um,
course not. Yes.
yeah, and of course, you saw when I retweeted that, I also put in a shameless plug for the developer edition.
Yes, of course. Good man. Good man. Yeah, we'll have links to.
Exactly. So it wasn't so much about what they
No,
said, it
right.
was just,
Yes,
hey,
a chance to plug your stuff. As you
yes,
should. As you
exactly.
should. The XPS
Yes.
13 is so like Barton said, available now in the 6th gen and 7th gen model. The 7th gen is hot. It's the 93070. Not hot literally, but
Yep.
hot like in the
No, no,
proverbial.
no.
Yeah. With lots of different configs. I will
And
link to bartongeorge.io in the show notes where you guys can read about it as well as the other product pages. Barton, is there anything else we want to mention before we roll out of here?
no, I think that the one thing that I would say is I was completely blown away by the amount of interest generated by this release,
Oh yeah.
because, as you know, it's number 7, and I thought it would be incrementally,
Old
or
news.
same sort of level of interest. And I got more hits on my blog that first day than I have in the 10 years that I've been doing that blog. So it was just, it was not what I expected. As I said, I expected people to be interested
Yeah.
because we have
Well, it doesn't
folks who are
surprise
interested
me.
in it, but
It doesn't. I'm glad to hear that. It doesn't surprise me a single bit, Barton, because the reason I drove my RV down to your office was because I could tell there was momentum building around this product line, which snapped my
yeah,
attention around. And so I am not surprised to see it's continuing to build because I could smell it coming, Barton. I could like an Austin
exactly.
barbecue.
Yeah, what was it? Your bunions were
I'm not
tweeting or something like that. You knew
something.
it's going to rain. I don't know
Yeah.
what this.
I'm not sure. Right now, I'm just thinking about Austin barbecue now that I said that. But Barton, thank you very
Oh
much for
yeah.
coming on. And
No, pleasure as always. I really appreciate the opportunity, Chris.
maybe one of these short weeks here, I can get my hands on one of these and tell the folks what I think. But in the meantime, they can go read up about it, and I'll retweet any reviews for the developer edition I see coming along too, so people can keep an eye out for that. All right, Barton.
And then, as we were talking about before, easiest way to get there is either, easiest to remember is Dell.com/developers or Dell.com/Sputnik. They'll take you to the same place, and that's where it has the line, and you can click through for the new one. Or the other ones.
Very good. Thank you, sir. We are officially done. So you are released from class and can go about your snow day.
You know, I'll go back to trying to figure out what's up with my monitor.
Yeah,
but yes,
yes.
I appreciate it, sir.
All right, Barton. It was good to talk to you. I'm glad to hear it's going well. And let's chat more soon.
Cool beans.
All righty.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? Oh, so I just realized when I said that. Hopefully tomorrow, the new 9370 has been added to the Sputnik.com page.
Okay. And the majority of folks will download this tomorrow. So it comes out on... Tweet this if you would for me when it comes out. Give us a retweet so people know.
Oh, duh. Yeah, no, I'm all about that.
But yeah, it'll probably be... We'll probably announce the release tonight, but most people will download it tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to hope that these web guys finish it up tomorrow.
Cool.
Because otherwise they'll go to it and they'll see the 9360. But it's on my blog and everything. It's just the Dell.com/Sputnik and whatever. So just in case you get someone asking about it, just say, hey, it's going to be up.
I'll say, go check. In the meantime, go just grab the link in our show notes, too. We'll have it there.
Exactly. Even better.
All righty, sir. Thank you very much for your time.
When do you think you'll post?
Tonight.
You said?
Tonight, yeah.
Okay.
Tonight, go, and most people download tomorrow.
All right, so just keep me in the tweet, and then I'll retweet.
Excellent.
To my little heart's content. All righty, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye.
Take care.
All right, now we go into Mumble. Let's try that. See what happens. Going into Mumble in a 3, in a 2, in a 1, 2, 3.
Is this going to be like a big thing?
Hello? Am I working? Is it working? Can you hear me? It is working. Good. I didn't lose my audio interface. Ooh, you guys sound good too.
When's Chris turning up?
I don't know. Where is that guy? You know what? I lost my screen out on my OBS machine. What kind of crap is that? So I don't have preview. This is no good. I don't know why. It's after the last GNOME crash, my monitors never come back. But if I go into GNOME displays, it still sees the monitor, but nothing goes out to that monitor. So
sounds like a hung process.
Well, I rebooted. I did the reboot. I did the old reboot there. And I did a little sneaky reboot while I was setting up with Barton in the background. I just rushed over and did a little reboot, redid the recapture on the videos, and still got no display out. I don't know.
You probably just got a firmware update that killed your monitors.
Spectre!
Shots fired.
Yeah. Oh man. But that's not even. I don't even know what that is, because that could just be actual hardware dying. So, who knows? Well, so I just got done with Barton. It was good chat. He's all up to good stuff. So we'll just start. Wes, are you here? Wes? Where's Wes? No Wes? Oh, I missed that.
Chris, no Wes.
What's that?
So how do we get your attention?
Oh, yeah, we should do a refresher on that. So I have the Discord chat kind of up. My monitor's down, but I have it up on one of the screens. And so if you tag me in there with so do Chris Last to highlight me, and then do just like a quick synopsis of what you want to say, so I could set you up, and then I usually will, if I'm not trying to move on, I will likely call on you. Sometimes people put stuff in there, and I want to move on to a different topic, so I don't actually call on them, and they might just think I missed it. I don't know, but I try to then remember to go back in the post show and say, hey, I know you wanted to say something. So, and you can always bring it up then if we have enough time. So I'm loading my links for the rest of the show. This is Linux Unplugged 232. I want one of those new XPS 13s, I tell you what, but I think even more than that, I want one of the Precisions. I think I'm liking the Precision line even more.
I was just in Costco today, and they have XPS 13s. I was falling in love.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, a new DigitalOcean website. Oh, my God. Oh, what's happening? What is happening? Oh no!
When standards are updating.
They don't.
Is anybody recording that? Because that would be a great soundboard blip right there.
I don't know what to do because my dashboard demo's totally different now. How am I going to talk about a dashboard for days? Oh my god! I picked the
We
wrong.
should have talked about AMD or something during.
Man, I picked the wrong day to start fasting again. I'll tell you what, I picked the wrong day. I can't even with this. Oh man.
Don't you have any chewing gum?
No, I don't actually. I have dog food. I got dog food.
Bad idea.
Yeah.
Don't you dare.
How you doing, Popey? I haven't seen you for a couple weeks. How you doing?
Tickety boo. How are you?
Pretty good. Oh, you're a little hot. You're a little hot. You're a little
See,
clippy.
I asked the other guys and they said it was fine.
It's just a little warm, you know.
You can't believe me. I have a compressor on.
You get off that podcasting bandwagon, Popey, and this is what happens.
I blame Leonard.
This 20s this morning. This is down south, south of the Mason-Dixon line, so.
What is? What?
20, around the 20s, upper 20s.
Oh, yeah.
That I woke up to this morning.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's horrible. Noah told me yesterday in Grand Forks, North Dakota, with the wind chill in effect, that it was negative 47 degrees.
Negative 47?
That's what they could ask the man. Yeah, that's with the wind chill. Yeah. That's
Wasn't it negative 50 the other day too?
Boy, man.
Yeah, I don't know. That sounds horrible. Let's see here.
That sounds like eyelashes phrasing is what it sounds like.
Yeah. Oh, that's frostbite weather. Yeah, that is. Here, let's see. Let's ask the lady tube. What's the temperature in Grand Forks, North Dakota?
In Grand Forks, North Dakota, it's 6 degrees with cloudy skies.
Ooh, it's balmy.
Tonight, you can look for mostly clear skies, with a low of 1 degree.
Heat wave.
Jeez. Boy, he's getting off easy now.
I'm still trying to find the cartoon of when we had that snowpocalypse down. Well, what was called snowpocalypse in my area.
Let's see here. What's the temperature in Seattle, Washington?
Currently, in Seattle, Washington, it's 54 degrees with partly sunny skies. Today, you can expect rainy weather, with a high of 54 degrees and a low of 45 degrees.
Yep. That's it.
Which thing is that? Is that the Google Home?
No, that's what's her face, the original lady
is it?
tube. Yeah, that's the Echo.
That doesn't sound like her.
It is
It's Amazon. There's a distinct voice difference between Google.
for sure.
No. Well, it doesn't sound like mine.
Because you're.
Oh,
in a different-
really? They give it an accent over there, do they? An accent.
Alexa, what's the temperature in Grand Forks, Dakota?
Right now in Grand Forks, United States, it's minus 14 degrees
Cool.
with cloudy
I
skies.
want that.
That's a different temperature.
Mostly clear
Yeah.
skies.
That's
Yeah,
how
it's
I have.
proper temperature.
I think
So-
you'll find it's the right temperature.
Wow.
All right, let me try this. Okay, let's try it. Let's try this here. Hey Siri, what's the temperature in Grand Forks, North Dakota?
Pretty cold in Grand Forks, ND. 3 degrees.
Yeah, there you go. That's how Siri does it. I kind of like that she just tells me because if I ask her what's the weather, she'll give me a fuller report, and if I just ask for what the temperature, she just says what the temperature is. Whereas the Echo goes into like a full paragraph before it actually tells you the answer. I do kind of, but see, and you can change her voice too, which I like that. I don't know.
You can change the voice on Google now and make it male.
Yeah, I'm not interested in that.
Computer.
I would just like it to have. I want all my smart devices to sound like Popey. Really, is what it is.
Whoa.
Well, come on, it's your fault. You got it with the Mycroft, and that's that. Once I heard that, it was.
I'd like mine to sound like Patrick Stewart.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. Oh, if I could. Yeah.
Or Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, that'd be good too. I'd take Morgan Freeman.
Or Gambon.
Or Sigourney Weaver. Remember how she played the computer translator in the Galaxy Quest movie? She could just sort
of. Or even better, the computer from Dexter's Laboratory.
I still want Popey though. I mean, in the meantime, like Popey seems like the most feasible.
Nobody knows what Dexter's Laboratory is?
So wait a minute here. Oh shoot, one of these emails. No, I've heard of it though. One of these emails is specifically for Wes. Well, that's sort of going to make it a shorter
Cartoon
segment.
Network.
Oh, I've heard of it. Yeah. Girl, I have heard of it. All right. Well, shoot. Well, Beard, I'm going to take you down into restricted casting, and you and I will do the intro. And
Artie.
And then I don't know. I don't know about that there, Wes. But you know, because I guess I'll have to scratch the email. So we might have to try to, guys. We may have to try to stretch out the one email I'm going to read now on the show at the end of the show, because the long one was for Wes, and he got sick. So
Wes is getting down with the sickness.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, I'd rather he just not give it to me. So good enough. All right. Let's do this thing. I've already been recording for 5 minutes, so. Oh, I owe you a little I'm gonna do a little pre-show jazzy thing, just real quick. Let me. Okay. So you and I are gonna go back up, and then we'll come back down here. Anybody in the Mumble Room having Wi-Fi issues? And do you have a Chromecast? Because it turns out that's all it takes. Have you heard about this?
Really?
Wait, what?
Yeah, so router vendors are going to be pushing out firmware updates. Google's actually known about this for a little while. There's an issue recently with Google's Chromecast. If you have it on your network and you launch the YouTube app on a phone or a device, when the YouTube app wakes up, quote unquote, this is the documentation language, when it wakes up, it does a broadcast packet to see, actually anything that supports Chromecast does this. It's not just YouTube, but this is the most common one. It does a broadcast to say, hey, is there any Chromecast devices here? I'm awake and I would like to be able to broadcast to you. And these packets are normally sent in 20-second intervals, which in network timing is a pretty long time. But turns out there's a bit of a bug, and sometimes the devices will broadcast a large amount of packets at very high speeds in a very short amount of time, and it's around 100,000 packets instead of a 20-second interval where it sends a packet. It's hundreds of thousands of packets as fast as your little device can cram it over your Wi-Fi network, overwhelming routers, and it's pretty much all of the major ones. Netgear has acknowledged this, Linksys has acknowledged this, Asus has acknowledged this, TP-Link has acknowledged this, and Google themselves has acknowledged this, although Google says it impacts a small number of users, and they're committed to providing a fix in short order.
Does it affect OpenWRT and LEAD?
I would think it'd be possible, Bo, because it's like an overwhelming DDoS. It's not necessarily like a flaw in the software, I think.
Right.
Does it impact Google hardware specifically, like Google Wi-Fi?
If you have, well, I don't know about Google Wi-Fi, but if you have a Chromecast, and a lot of us do, and then you have an app on your mobile device that supports Chromecast, this is what you get.
What about cast-supported devices?
Thankfully, both of my Chromecasts are powered off the TV, so if the TV's off, the Chromecast's off.
Same, yeah.
But I'm talking.
Wonder if Roku's can affect this. They accept some Chromecast.
Well, it's on the Chromecast side. It's sending out the packets from their Chromecast, and it uses UDP.
Right.
And there's no congestion control on UDP.
Exactly.
Okay, so my Chromecast is getting unplugged today.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder if this affects things like NVIDIA Shield, which has got the cast capability.
I was just wondering that too. I was thinking it might, right?
And televisions that have Google TV, like Sony's and other televisions that have cast support.
Yeah. I was wondering that too.
Our computer's fun.
Yes.
Security is hard.
And if you read into it, it sounds like Google, I don't know, I've heard a couple of different things. Reddit users, so take this with a grain of salt, are speculating like Google might have been hip to this for like a year, but hasn't quite figured out how to fix it. Because, like Beard was saying, it's sort of like a problem with controlling UDP packets. Is sort of, I don't know. So I don't know what the fix is going to be, but so go figure. All right. Well, now we're going to move down into restricted casting. We'll do a quick little intro, and we'll be right back, Mumble Room. Hugs and kisses. All right, Beardsley, stand back. Muting this and that, and let's do a quick levels check, just to make sure I'm not going to blow everybody's frickin' ears out, and then we'll go. Levels check. Levels check. Okay. Levels check. Pretty good. This is Linux Unplugged, episode 232 for January 16th, 2018. Welcome to Linux Unplugged, your weekly Linux talk show that's fending off the plague, talking brand new Linux hardware, and answering your questions. My name is Chris.
And I'm the Beard.
Hey, Beard. Beard's joining me this week, but not Wes, because
I poisoned him.
Yeah, Wes got poisoned by Beard, so that way he could step up and actually be in the intro. So we got that taken care of. Good job, sir. Now, also coming up on this week's episode, we will go through a whole bunch of community news. This episode is really going to be like all about the community, about stuff they're working on, about upcoming events, and then answering a lot of your questions. And Barton George from Dell will be joining us to talk about the new XPS 13 developer, the Sputnik line of their sweet Infinity edge-to-edge display laptops. Well, they just shipped out a brand new one with the latest 8th generation Intel processors, a bunch of new features, Ubuntu 16.04 installed by default. So Barton will come on. I'll pick his brain about the new machines, and then I'm going to ask him a couple of questions about, because he's in a large corporation, so he's maybe the perfect person to ask, sitting at Dell in a large corporation, shipping Linux desktops. Barton, what's it going to take to get Linux on every machine at Dell? What would it take for corporate systems to be able to switch over and get out of that Windows trench? And we talk about that. We talk about big trends that Dell's getting ready for that are coming down the pipe. And we talk about the transition to 1710, GNOME, a little meltdown inspector. It's all coming up later on in the show. So I think it's going to be, what are they, not a door stopper. It's going to be, I need a good name. Mumble Room. What's a good name for what this week's about? And hello, Virtual Log. This is like a blowout episode, right? Come on.
It's a barn burner.
It's a barn burner. That's exactly what I was looking for. Okay, hello, Mumble Room. Time appropriate greetings. Hello.
What's
Hey.
up?
Hello.
Guys, boy, it's good to hear all your voices. I missed you guys. It's been a long week. But the only thing that really got me through this long week has been the good news coming out of the Plasma project. So we got a couple of different things to cover for the Plasma desktop. I figured you Plasma desktop users have been yearning for some coverage. So there's a new LTS in the works. It's the second long-term support release from the Plasma 5 team. And they're working on fixing speed and stability. It's a speed and stability release. Boot time for the desktop has been improved by reviewing code and getting rid of anything they found that blocked execution. They've been triaging and fixing bugs in every aspect of the code base, tidying up artwork, removing corner cases, and ensuring cross-desktop integration. Interesting. Specifically in regard to the performance, because that's what got my attention, they say we have been concentrating on speed and memory improvements with the 5.12 LTS release. When Plasma is running, it now uses less CPU and less memory than previous versions. The time it takes to start Plasma Desktop has been reduced dramatically, and Plasma support for running as on Wayland is now more complete and more suitable for a wide range of testing. So they're ready to bake it into the LTS release, and they have got output resolution scaling working, screen rotation, enabling and disabling outputs through K-Screen, automatic screen rotation based on orientation sensors, automatic touch calibration. X-Wayland is no longer required to even run the Plasma Desktop. Big one right there. Yeah, and Wayland Windows can now run full screen. That's a big one for the Beard. Kwin's been integrated with their night color system, which is awesome. That's so cool, and kind of removes the need for people to get to even run Redshift anymore on the Plasma Desktop. And the compositor is now automatically kind of smart, depending on the desktop and the input and responsiveness. And if you're using Wayland, there's been a lot of work there. So this really is being positioned as the Plasma desktop to use. It's version 5.12. It's in development right now. And they seem pretty excited about it. I'll defer to the Mumble Room for a moment if anybody wants to talk about Plasma. I do have a second part to this story, though, so going once, going twice.
Hey, you know, it sounds great, but I hope for their sake that they lose the reputation of being bloated. Just with this release. You know what I'm saying?
Amen.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think that's sort of been... Well, boy, it's really what's your definition of bloated? Because resources-wise, I feel like it hasn't been that bloated for several releases now. In fact, I was shocked when I started running Plasma for a while how little resources it used based on just what everybody said. So that's one version of bloat. But another version of bloat is the package mess. And I know this is a soft spot and they don't like people talking about it, but just 2 days ago, I was going through and updating my last remaining Arch system, and of course there's a conflict between some standard accessibility feature and a Plasma desktop accessibility feature. And I have to choose between one of them, and either one of them breaks a series of dependencies. And just as a thought experiment, I went down the path of what would happen if I tried to uninstall the Plasma desktop accessibility version. And it unwinds 35 packages, which eventually ends up at uninstalling the entire Plasma desktop itself, because I want to remove a singular component. I just wanted to uninstall the accessibility meta package and just remove the accessibility stuff altogether because it was hanging up my update, and then I would reinstall it later if I wanted it. But to get there, I eventually got to the point where I'd be uninstalling the entire... It's so intertangled with everything that is another kind of bloat. And that's a reputation I don't know if they're going to get away from for a while. They might be able to conquer the reputation one, but people will still be throwing that bloat term around, I think, because of that package mess. Unless somebody could snap all that up.
Yeah, that's something they were trying to get rid of when they went on to Plasma 5 and KDE Frameworks 5. They were trying to get rid of all that dependency issue, and now I'm hearing...
Well, there's been progress. It's just, you know, when you're starting, when the needle's at 11... and you're trying to, and now it's been dialed back to 7. So, right, but my opinion, there's more dialing back to go, I think. JJ, you had a question about the undestructible desktop. Are you talking about like the Bulletproof project we had a while ago?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was sort of trying to point that also in terms of your recent crashes with GNOME and comparing that to switching over to a new desktop possible.
Yeah, you know, the Unbreakable, like, Bulletproof desktop project sort of is what got me going down the path of Solus for a while. But then I ended up having some issues with Budgie, and so I moved off. And that's sort of when the project died. However, recently, as like a thought experiment, I've thought about how it might be fun to just poke at Fedora Atomic Workstation. So I'm going to try to have... someone from that group on in a few weeks to talk more about that as a possibility. That kind of transactional update, whatever it might be, if it maybe comes via snaps and Flatpaks, or if it's something that's for the entire way you deploy all software on the system, more like Atomic, there may be a solution somewhere in there. I just don't feel like we're there yet, but I do genuinely feel like we're on the right track to that, in part because of snaps and Flatpaks. And Docker, and all these other things that we love to hate, too.
Yeah, and personally, I'm sort of on this similar boat with me switching back and forth between a bunch of distributions, but I've been stable on Ubuntu Mate for a little while.
Yeah, it is a nice landing spot, isn't it, Mr. Wimpy? Wimpy, I was just thinking of you because you and I have gone back and forth about the transition to Wayland and some of our different thoughts about what kind of transition that may actually end up being. And so, Wimpy, I wanted to know what you thought about this post on the KWin development blog about KWin is now considering X11 as indefinitely feature frozen, that their support for X11 is feature frozen. They'll still do maintenance, so security fixes and whatnot, but specifically, they won't be making specific improvements to X11. KWin, they write, KWin won't be adjusted to any new requirements in the X server, Mesa, or the input stack, or proprietary drivers. If something breaks, it's the fault of those components which broke it, and they're going to be focusing their development efforts on Wayland after Plasma Desktop 5.12 ships. What do you think about this, Wimpy, about going just all in on Wayland and saying that X11's done? It's done.
Well, KDE are in the fortunate position where they've invested a huge amount of effort over the years to keep pace with Wayland as it's evolved. And, you know, the only two desktops right now, or rather, the only two desktops that we've had for a long time, GNOME and KDE, have arrived with, you know, Wayland support. So it makes sense for them to invest in the future. And that's their project decision. I mean, if they feel it's ready for prime time,
it's pretty political, I'll admit. I gotta say, because to me, I feel like a lot of users are gonna have a super rocky transition to Wayland. I wonder if it's not going to be 10 times harder than the community expects it to be.
I don't know about this, because what I haven't done is I haven't run a Wayland composited desktop or window manager other than GNOME 3. So some of the rough edges that I've seen on GNOME 3,
that's a good point.
I don't know how that translates to things like Sway or Lyri or KDE.
Yeah, point well made. You could be absolutely correct there. And Martin points out in the blog post that they've sort of architected their essentially their Wayland system, the KWin. They've architected it in such a way that they don't really need to implement a lot of stuff at that level. Like it's if you read through the blog post, he says that there will be new features that will come along, but most functionality in KWin is independent of the windowing system. Any improvements to the areas that benefit Wayland and X11, so if they make some new feature, and he gives examples like tooltips on decoration buttons, improved blur effects, or a rework of side desktop effects, they're making those improvements to KWin. They're not necessarily X11 or Wayland specific. Both X11 and Wayland users will get that stuff because of the way they've architected KWin. And so with that in mind, I think it does make a lot of sense. I think that's actually a pretty good move. And it does kind of make me want to try out Plasma 5.12, probably eventually 5.13, because that's really when all this stuff lands is Plasma 5.13. It does kind of make me want to try it, because you make a fair point, Wimpy. I think the bulk of my experience, with a few exceptions, has been GNOME 3 on Wayland, and I may have made some assumptions based on that experience that aren't fair. So I think when time gets right, I got to spend some time on KWin and Wayland and just see how that compares. That's a good point. All right. There's some really, really good news this week. We talked about it pretty in depth on Linux Action News, but I'd be derelict in my duties if I didn't tell you guys about this here on the Unplugged program. The city of Barcelona is switching to Linux and open source software in a pretty smart way, and they're doing it in a pretty smooth timeline. So first of all, the first thing they're really doing before they've even switched out a single desktop is they're going to invest 70% of their software budget into open source software development. Then they're creating a transition period that lasts until the spring of 2019. And they're going to replace Microsoft Office with LibreOffice. They're going to replace Internet Explorer with Firefox. They're going to do that type of transition. And then once everybody's up and running on these applications and they've developed the new backend applications they need, and probably like web versions of them, that's an assumption on my part, they're going to move people over to Ubuntu. They're going to just ship the Ubuntu desktop instead of trying to build their own desktop, which is really where Munich went off in the weeds. And they're already running 1,000 Ubuntu-based desktops right now as a pilot project. This is how you do this. They're doing essentially all the things right here. Like I was joking with Joe on Linux Action News, but I kind of want to know what you think, Beard. Is this the silver lining of Munich blowing up in the Linux community's face, and the fact that it was a public thing that Microsoft fans like Paul Thurrott today is making a Munich joke on Twitter today? But maybe the silver lining is cities like Barcelona can watch that and go, oh shit, don't do that.
Yeah, learn from their mistakes. I think that's exactly right. I mean, you just do a staged migration. That way, if you have problems, you can roll back that one specific step instead of the whole thing.
Yeah, I hope this works. JJ, you had thought about government and funding of open source software?
Well, sort of the usage of software in government, like a lot of these systems are Windows-based, and a lot of them are using older versions of Windows, and hopefully this Barcelona example, it seems to be doing all the right stuff, and like you mentioned before, and maybe it'll bring a spur to some certain universities that are reluctant to support Linux, or certain companies, support companies. Currently, I'm in a university where their IT department is sort of looks down upon Linux at this moment.
Yeah, I've been there. Boy, that seems like an attitude of 10 years ago, though. That's sort of unfortunate to hear that in 2018.
Well, I mean, thankfully, some of the professors are somewhat, like one of the professors that just transferred over to my university, he's sort of been a pro-Linux advocate, sort of been... even though he doesn't say he uses Linux for his code examples and all that, but he's not like he's like an advocate, but he's not like outright wears it on his sleeve, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I can understand that. Well, so Popey's drawn my attention to it. So hashtag blowing Popey. Thank you so much, Popey. Yeah, breaking news right here on the Unplugged program.
This is CNN breaking news.
Crypto is ruined. Everything is ruined. This is why we can't have nice things. Bitcoin has gone bust. Popey, you're our Bitcoin reporter on the scene. What are your thoughts, sir? What's your analysis of the current Bitcoin crypto market? All crypto coins are down. Your analysis, sir.
Those red colors, they're not good, are they?
I don't think so. Yeah, it seems like those are bad, right? And they're way over on the far side. You see how far over they are? That seems bad too, right?
Yeah, they got minus signs and everything. That doesn't look good to me.
Oh, you got a prediction if this thing's gonna go down to 5,000? What do you think? I know you're a big follower.
Yeah, I think everyone should switch to Monero. There you go.
Yeah, okay.
I had a prediction on the Ubuntu podcast for the end of year predictions that said that in December 2018 the price of Bitcoin would be, give or take a couple of $1,000, the same as it was in December 2017, and cited a massive crash but a recovery that we've not seen in Bitcoin before.
Yep. As soon as I heard that prediction, I said to myself, shit, that's way better than my prediction. He's absolutely right. And I knew it. As soon as, in fact, after I thought to myself, I wouldn't be surprised if in the next month we see this thing get down to 10,000. And now here we are at 11,000. I hate making predictions about Bitcoin. I totally blame Joe for that. I'm just kidding, Joe. I don't. But
it was the memey thing to make predictions about at the end
huge.
of the year.
Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah.
Yep. And now it's going down like crazy. You know, I still maintain that open source currency for fun internet money or for clandestine worldwide transactions still has a value. It's still, I don't know if it's Bitcoin. See, the problem, I think what happened is people started realizing that, at least in my opinion, that these transaction costs were getting to the point where essentially you had unusable Bitcoin. If you had like some Bitcoin Satoshis hanging around, they were unusable. You would have to spend more than they were worth to get them to even move across the network at any reliable speed for any kind of like online transaction. And I think once that really sunk in with people, this is what happened. Maybe if they would have solved the blockchain, the block size issue months and months and months and months ago when it was a hot topic at the beginning of 2017, we might not be here right now. But they punted on a solution. Several forks emerged as a result, and this is I think that playing out right now because the network became unsustainable. It's just too slow, too expensive. It is probably going to come back up eventually, though, so I'm sure people will call it a fire sale. There was an article, I don't know if you saw it, Wimpy, going around that it was pretty popular, so you may have, going around that just a couple of key Bitcoin players were moving the market as much as 40% some days, back in the Mt. Gox days. Just a couple of people. Yeah.
I can imagine in the Mt. Gox days that was fairly easy.
Yeah.
Those were dark days.
Yeah. It seems to be it's interesting though, that story is getting a lot of attention today. So it's back from the Mt. Gox day, but today is the day that it's getting passed around a lot online. And who knows, by the time this episode actually is available for download, it could be down another $5,000. I don't mean to laugh. I'm sorry. I know some people are dying. I've always kind of figured this could happen. All right. Well, I want to give an overview of a bunch of really cool community events that are coming up in just the next couple of months, including you know what I don't have a link for is that there Floss Talk. You guys in the Mumble Room, if you have any like upcoming events in the community that you want to spread the word about, I'll give you a few moments to think about it. So prepare your links, get them ready for Discord, and then we can mention them here on the show if you have any. And I'll take a moment and I'll thank Ting for sponsoring the show while you guys prepare yourselves. Linux.ting.com is where you go to get $25 off a device or $25 in service credits. This is pretty sweet because they have a CDMA and GSM network, so you can probably bring a phone and get $25 in service credits. And the way Ting works is you only pay for what you use. Your minutes, your messages, and your megabytes. No contracts. You just pay for what you use. It's $6 for the line and your usage. Average Ting bill is going to be around $23 per month per phone. That's amazing. Think about that. I went from, before even all the taxes were done, I mean, the final bill was higher than this, but like right around a base bill of $120 a month. for my 3 phones. And I think that I don't know how it goes from 120 to like 165 after all the crazy taxes and weird fees. It seems unsustainable, but yet they make billions in revenue. And if somebody could get in like the Starship Enterprise and go around the sun and turn back time and then relaunch wireless networks, they'd all have to do it this way. It's pay for what you use. You just pay for however much you talk, text, and data you use. They give you really good tools to control all of it. I've been a Ting customer now for 3 years and called them twice. One was because I was doing something crazy with a MiFi, and the other was because I didn't know you could actually activate a phone on their website at first. It's like, what company lets you do that? But they do, and it's great. And which means now, like, I turn MiFis on and off like crazy. It's perfect for me because I take advantage of both network CDMA and GSM. They always have a very active blog. They're talking about right now a referral giveaway. You can check that out at their blog. Just start by going to linux.ting.com. That'll take some money off a device or give you service credit. And then you can get started with pay for what you use mobile wireless. Linux.ting.com. Linux.ting.com. And thanks to Ting for sponsoring the Unplugged program. Okay, guys. So does anybody have a community event that they want to pass along? I'll give a plug for one that's coming up in just a couple of days to warm us up. DevConf.cz is a 10th annual free Red Hat-sponsored community conference for developers, admins, and DevOps engineers, and many more. And it's in the Czech Republic. So I'll have a link to that in the show notes if you're going to be there. It's the city of Brno, B-R-N-O, so I'm probably butchering that. And it's at the Faculty of Information Technology. I have all that information in the show notes. January 26th, I believe, is, yes, the 26th through the 28th. Online registration is already open if you go to devconf.cz. Give them a little mention because that is coming up right around the corner. The other one that's just not too far, at least in my world, is Linux Fest Northwest 2018, April 28th through the 29th. You know Jupiter Broadcasting is going to be there. We're going to probably do something different than we've ever done before. I don't quite have it all worked out, but we're thinking about potentially attempting to record one of each show that we can there. So it'll be so instead of just sitting there on the live stream and just sort of like DJing and just sort of like shooting the S, we'll actually be doing shows live there, like maybe all of the shows if we can, as many as we can, live at Linux Fest, maybe pulling in different appropriate guests for different types of shows. Alan will be there with us, and it's always a great time. So April 28th through the 29th, Linux Fest, or lfnw.org. They have a call for, so if you want to talk, they still have an open presentation. You can submit it now for like a couple of more days. So get that in if you want to do that. lfnw.org. And then Floss Talk Live, which I was going to get more from Joe and I forgot because I'm a bad person. But, Good
job, I'm here now then.
Oh, well, then there, look at, Jeez, you just say his name and he shows up. So was it Floss Talk we were going to... Now I'm actually thinking it wasn't Floss Talk. I'm thinking it was FOSDEM, actually, now that you're here. So, Joe, what the hell's going on? Tell people about it.
So, Foss Talk Live, not Floss Talk Live.
That's what I knew I was mixing something up.
Yeah. So, it's a live event that's happening in June.
Okay.
And we've done it for the last couple of years in the summer. It's in a small pub in King's Cross in London. And it's traditionally been Linux Voice, Ubuntu Podcast, Linux Luddites or Late Night Linux, and then a mashup show featuring Stuart Langridge and Dave from Geek News Radio. And it's just been an excuse to get together, drink, and watch some live podcasts.
Nice. When is it? Do you guys have I know the site's, is the site updated yet? I don't think so, right?
No, I haven't updated the site yet. I've updated the Twitter, but not the website.
All right. So it will be at fosstalk.com eventually for details, and then go check it out on Twitter right now. I'll put a link to the Twitter in the show nizzles. There you go. So maybe we'll...
Our hotel room already.
Yeah? Oh, geez. See, now I'm getting FOMO. God dang it, guys. Come on my own show and give me FOMO. Oh, yeah.
It's the 9th of June, by the way, so everyone put that in your calendar if you're around London, the 9th of June this year.
Very good. The 9th of June, 2018, for a drunken mashup of a bunch of different Linux podcasters. And go say hi to Mr. Popey. He smells great. And so it's always a pleasure to bump into him. Joe, thanks for popping on real quick and setting me straight, because I was going to blow that.
Yeah, no worries. I am out and about. That's why I sound a bit different.
Yeah. No, I still appreciate it. All right. Well, so then, of course, there's the next event, the Granddaddy event that always gets a lot of attention. And this is the last one I'm going to mention this week before we get to Barton. And that is Scale 16X, March 8th through the 11th at the Pasadena Convention Center in California, which has a new vibe this year. They're kind of really trying to push a new vibe. They wanted to make sure I knew about it. They wanted to make sure that Late Night Linux knew about it. So they sent us information about like a Libre photo workshop that's coming up, and even a photography walk around Pasadena, which actually would be kind of legit. If you're going to Pasadena, why not go out for a photography walk? That actually sounds kind of worth it, because you could always use a walk, and it's kind of a beautiful area. And so they're focusing in for at least one of the tracks on like Libre free tools to work with graphics. And they're going to bring a collection of artists, projects, developers, and just users that just want to make the best possible looking art on a free desktop. So Libre Graphics at Scale is going to present talks designed for general audience of users and developers. They're going to vary in subject matter from tutorials and workflows to project announcements and packaging. Specifically, that'll be Friday, the 9th of March, from 10 a.m. to 1700. The 16th annual Southern California Linux Expo. Anybody in the Mumble Room planning to go? Really? Just me? That's so sad. I know Noah's thinking about going. Well, I don't know exactly. I haven't fully figured it out, but I think I'm going.
I have trouble getting vacation time, so yeah.
Yeah, my boss makes me go. So
we'll be at a company thing in Budapest, so it'll be difficult for us to go.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. I'll be lonely there, but I'll just hang out with all my other Linux friends. That's fine. You guys just make it a good party. That's cool. We ought to just sync up our schedules, ahead of time. We just get a Google Calendar, so that way I can make sure I'm always wherever you are, Popey. That's really what I want to go for. So you can find out more at sociallinuxexpo.org. That is for Scale 16. And I'm going to be there in some capacity, there with Noah, doing our thing, trying to pull him constantly away from all the ham guys. That's what Noah does. Noah goes there, he gets a feel for the layout, and then he just goes and hangs out with the ham guys all the time, because they've got the cool toys. They really do, and they're proud of it. So it's actually kind of a blast. Let's get Barton on. The XPS 13 is it's kind of this strange beast, because if you just go out on the web and Google search XPS 13, you get something that runs Windows 10. It's probably not what you're looking for if you're listening to this show. But you've heard that there is specifically a version of it that runs Ubuntu. We've talked about it many times. I've done reviews in the past. Went down there to Dell last year, got kind of my eyes on all of the different products, including things outside the XPS line. And so there's this sort of skunkworks project called the Sputnik project that we've covered on and off that's been brewing in the background. And it's been getting more and more prominence at Dell.com too. Like now, today, if you go to Dell.com/developers or Dell.com/Sputnik, you find it right away. There was a period of time where it was kind of like buried on the Dell website. It was like, wasn't clear, is this something they're really into? But we are now 7 releases, the 7th generation. We're 7 releases into this product line. Over 5 years now into this product line. And they've been iterating on it over and over and over again. And so last week, middle of last week, I think, they announced the new XPS 13 with 8th generation Intel processors and all of those goodies. So I wanted to bring Barton on to talk about it because I honestly expected Dell to blow it by now. I just thought, nothing good lasts forever. And they've been doing it for like 5 years. I just kind of thought it's gonna slip. It's gonna slip. But they've proven me wrong. So when I saw the new release, I immediately fired off an email to Barton and said, "Come on the show." So before we go to Barton, let's stop right here and thank DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Unplugged program. DigitalOcean.com. You go over there, you create your account, and then use our promo code DO Unplugged. It's one word, and you get a $10 credit. And they've just recently adjusted their pricing to make it even more competitive. And they got a new website too that is gorgeous. DigitalOcean.com. Create the account, use the promo code DO Unplugged, and then go dig around. They got the best dashboard. Every other vendor in this area is attempting to rip them off, and they can't even compete because DigitalOcean doesn't stand still. When they're not making their features better, when they're not adding things like monitoring or Spaces, or when they're not monitoring, when they're not doing those things, they're revving their website and they're revving their API, or they're publishing amazing documentation. They just do not stand still. It's such a great service that anytime I want to try out a new open source project these days, anything that's server based at all, I don't even bother with a VM. I just go spin up a droplet in seconds. I've been talking about it this last couple weeks. It just blows me away for Linux Action News. Just over the weekend, I'm like, I'm going to try out Nextcloud 13 for the weekend. I'm going to see how that goes. I'm just going to try out Nextcloud 13 with the new Nextcloud Talk. I had that up and running in 5 minutes. Between a combination of 50, I think I would deploy in, I say usually like 40 seconds. They say 55 seconds. I mean, it just spins up so damn fast, it almost doesn't matter. You get a system up and running. You pick the data center. They have data centers all over the world. I chose Ubuntu 16.04. I SSH into that sucker. I then immediately did a sudo snap install Nextcloud --edge, I think it was, to get Nextcloud 13. So that was within, 2 minutes of creating the create machine button. I was installing Nextcloud 13. And then by minute 3, I was pulling up my Nextcloud the final configuration wizard in my web browser on my desktop off of a DigitalOcean droplet. And then I could do calls, and with DigitalOcean's incredible network speed, 40 gigabits coming to those hypervisors. So I'm sitting there doing it blew me away that back in the day, I used to take, it took me 2 to 3, sometimes a month to get a new server. And now I can do it in 5 minutes. I have the whole damn thing set up. It's really incredible. They have clustered deployments. They have different kind of optimizations for different compute types, pre-built applications, or you build the whole thing from the ground up. It's really awesome. It's a really good service. DigitalOcean.com. Try it out and use our promo code DOUnplugged. So we've got this new fancy XPS 13. There's only one thing to do. I'm going to stop it there so that way it's clear where to edit point to use, and then I'll fire it back up. Okay, thanks, guys. So the Barton stuff's done. So we just fast forward through time, and we come out the other end.
You're not playing it out.
Huh?
You're not playing the interview out to us.
Well, yeah, I could. Let's see.
You don't have to. It's fine. We can give us a reason to download and listen to the show.
Yeah, I'm trying to think how I could do that. I guess I could pull it down off of the OBS rig. But yeah.
Although, did you see what I put it in the Discord chat?
I did not ask him about Ryzen, no. Yes, it does have a USB-C. It is USB-C with 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports. But I did not ask him about Ryzen. Didn't cross my mind yet. Because I just kind of assume eventually the way we're going to get it is through those Intel AMD combo chips. You know? That's what I think.
Yeah, but with all the troubles Intel's having.
Yeah. These things have a way of blowing over in the grand, Maybe I'll be wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised if this time next year we're not even talking about it. We'll see. The thing is, as long as Intel is still benchmarking higher, I don't know. Maybe. I would be a fan if it was a big blowout year for AMD. I would be a big fan of that. Okay. So, I apologize to you guys that you're going to get double ads because I just did the ad, but 20 minutes have gone by on the show with Barton, so I'm going to do another ad, and I love you, and I apologize for it, and I appreciate you waiting for me, because when we come back, we have some Mate news from certain Wimpy. Wimpy, do you have a link for me that I can preload while I'm kind of stopped right now?
No, this is an exclusive. It's before links exist.
Oh, I love those. Those are my favorite. You know it. All right, cool. Well, then maybe what I'll do is I'll just put a link to the damn Patreon page. How about that?
That'd be good.
There we go. Were you hit very hard by the recent Patreon outrage?
Fortunately not.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I wish we were. Yeah, we kind of were, but we had some people come back. We had some other people step up. So it was, it was kind of like a. I don't think it was like a. It was like 1 step forward, 2 steps back, but it wasn't like 5 steps back. So that was good. Still, the overall trend has not been good since I have canceled last, but I understand. I knew that would be coming. I knew that there would be a long last backlash on the Patreon tail. I knew that was going to be a thing. It's okay. It happens. Okay, so we have this in here. I'm just going to add that to the show notes right now. Very good, sir. Very good. And I'll bring up that so I can show it up on screen, too. Okay. So, Beard, you're going to have 3 files. You'll have the interview first, then that first half of the show, and then now a new file for the remaining half of the show. I assume your silence is complete understanding and agreement.
It is.
Okay. All right. So, again, I apologize that I'm doing an ad right in your faces right now. But hashtag Daddy's Gotta Eat. Let's see here. You know what I might do is I'll change it up. Well, yeah, I'm gonna change it up. Okay. See this? Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that. We'll play the clip. Okay, in 3, 2. You know, I never even got to ask Barton about his dogs. I was gonna ask him about his dogs because somehow I go down to Dell. I hang out with Barton for a week, and I didn't even know he was a dog owner. And now these days, that's all I care about is a new dog owner. But I digress. Let's move on. We still have some great emails to get to. I want to recap something that we covered back in 2016 on this show, and things have changed. I've been doing a head-to-head comparison recently, so I want to cover that. We've also got some quote-unquote breaking news from the Ubuntu Mate project, all to come. So let's take a moment and thank Linux Academy for sponsoring the Unplugged program. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Go there to sign up for a free 7-day trial and support the show. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. What? You don't know what Linux Academy is? Friends, let me tell you this. Well, actually, how about a highly paid voice actor will tell you?
Whether you're an experienced sysadmin or new to the world of Linux, Azure and AWS, OpenStack and DevOps, a sharp skill set is an absolute necessity to succeed. Meet Linux Academy, an online Linux and cloud training platform that uses self-paced video courses and hands-on labs to give you real-world experience for a wide range of skills. Train for your certification, learn the latest DevOps tools, and grow your skill set to do better work. Linux Academy is not just a video library. Our scenario-based server labs and quiz system allow you to learn hands-on. We also have full-time human instructors who answer questions and help you earn that certification or promotion at work. We add new training every week so you'll always be up to date on the latest tech. Sysadmins of every experience level use Linux Academy to stay on the bleeding edge of the Linux ecosystem. You should too.
One thing the voiceover guy doesn't mention that's my favorite feature of Linux Academy is they have full-time human beings that are available to help you if you get stuck, like instructors that really know the content material. And they have a course scheduler system specifically for us busy folk. Just the more you know, guys. The more you know. So go check it out, linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Learn how to build a secure system so that way when the hackers are dropping malware on your system, you're on top of it.
While you're laughing, the hackers are dropping malware into your system.
linuxacademy.com/unplugged. And a big thank you to Linux Academy for sponsoring the Unplugged program, linuxacademy.com/unplugged. So, Wimpy, I heard a little birdie tell me that there could be something interesting over at the Mate project this week. Ubuntu Mate, I should say, not the Mate project, but Ubuntu Mate.
Actually, the opposite.
Oh,
the
really?
Mate project.
I got it right the first time. Oh, good for me.
Yeah, you did.
Hey, look at that accident, and then I messed it up by correcting myself. That's a life lesson.
I can also throw some news in about Ubuntu Mate if you like as well.
Yeah, then that would be just right all along. So that would be great. So let's start. Let's start with Mate.
Okay, so Mate 1.18 was released about 1 year ago, and that's been a long-lived version. We've been supporting that, and we've had 3 point releases, so it's very robust and stable now. But we have just closed the feature branches on the Mate desktop, and we'll be releasing Mate 1.20 in the next week or so, so expect that to hit your distributions soon.
That is really exciting. So, okay, so it's 1.20, right?
1.20, yeah. I wanted this one to be a 2.0, but I've gone with consensus of the team. We're going with 1.20.
I thought the next one would have been 1.19, though, so you did skip one rev.
1.19 was the development snapshots.
I see, okay. I see. Wow, so what's the headlining features, if there are there headlining features?
Well, there's some boring things that are important in that there's thousands of bug fixes, and a lot of those we've been cherry picking back into the 1.18 stuff for the important things, which is why people have seen that Ubuntu Mate 17.10 and 18.04 daily are really very robust at the moment. But there's been a lot of work in the window manager, for example, so that's now got hardware acceleration.
I love to hear
that. And is what's the word? Screen tear free, and now supports quadrant and upper and lower panel tiling within the standard window manager, and a whole heap of key bindings as well.
That sounds huge. That actually sounds pretty big.
Yeah, that's quite a bit of work, and this really came about because we were looking at where we needed to go with things as a team. We don't see that right now is the time for us to invest in any serious Wayland development, and there were things that we could do to improve our desktop on top of X11, so we've taken steps to do that. And this is work that won't arrive in time, but we've also started the work to really finesse the high DPI support. So high DPI support is much improved. It's still got the experimental tag in that it is not a seamless, it just auto magically enables. But if you twiddle the right knobs, you actually get a fairly decent high DPI experience with Mate now. And a blog is forthcoming. I've actually got it drafted, had it drafted for weeks. I need to get on and post that, how to turn that stuff on.
Oh boy. I mean, I could see why you wanted to do a 2.0, especially with the hardware accelerator. Is it Marco? Is that the...
Yeah, Marco is the window manager, yeah.
All right, that's pretty great. Is there anything else in that arena, or do you want to slip in a little secret about Ubuntu Mate?
Well, in order exploiting the features that we've used there, and some of the changes we've made in Mate itself, there's one sad thing about Mate 1.20. As a rule, we don't like to remove features, but we've actually had to remove a feature. So if you've used the desktop, one of the panel applets is a stock ticker. Yeah. And we've had to drop that because Yahoo have ended their API that we were hooked up to in order to get that data. Like many other services around the internet were all using this Yahoo API. That's gone away, it's not coming back, and there is no drop-in replacement. So unfortunately we've had to drop that applet because it's defunct.
I'm sure
you should replace it with a crypto coin monitor instead.
Absolutely.
But they already exist. We don't need to carry that in the core project.
Yeah, I'm sure many serious stock traders were using that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So building on top of the features that exist in Mate, in fact, as we've been talking, I've been working on the global menu. So the global menu implementation in Ubuntu Mate 18.04 will be such that that is permanently available, not necessarily enabled, but permanently available in all of the various layouts. And what that means specifically is that the HUD will now work in any of the layouts in Ubuntu Mate rather than just the few that had the global menu enabled. So that's an improvement I'm hopefully going to land this evening after we've finished chatting. And then the other thing we're looking at doing in Ubuntu Mate is we're working on our next generation of the Ubuntu Mate Welcome and the Software Boutique. And at DebConf, the Debian conference last year, the Debian Mate team were asked to more closely align with Ubuntu Mate in terms of default settings and setup and things like Welcome and the Software Boutique. So we're going to be delivering Ubuntu Mate Welcome and the Software Boutique as snaps so that Debian can take advantage of that. And a little bit longer term, we'll be adding some support so it can be white labeled. So when it's running on Debian, it can present a different look and feel and content.
That is fantastic. And it's fascinating to me that Snap applications can be contained in a Snap, but still have the ability to manipulate the package management on the host system. So it's like
these snaps would very specifically be classic. So these would be snaps that are effectively like a deb installed on your host system. They're effectively uncontained because they need to do exactly as you've just described. They need to add and remove software, and Welcome does other things, to configure peripherals and what have you. So yeah, very much unconfined applications, but by delivering them as snaps. The Welcome and Boutique are our USP. It's what broadly defines Ubuntu Mate's identity. We haven't been moving very quickly recently, but that's the development's ramping up now. And what I want to be able to do is continually deliver improvements to the Ubuntu Mate users through Welcome and the Boutique without having to use PPAs that people don't know about, and all sorts of other complicated systems. By having a snap, we can just keep delivering new and improved versions rapidly.
That sounds great. That sounds really great. I am obviously a big fan of sort of eliminating some of those PPAs as much as possible, and probably more and more as time goes on. When does so I'm clear, when does that kind of is that the 1804 release of Ubuntu Mate? That's where some of that will land?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. How big of a risk is it to switch over to that's a pretty big fundamental switch for the LTS. I guess you have time to iterate on it if needed, but that seems like a pretty big switch for the LTS.
Ubuntu Mate shipped as Snap in 1710.
Oh, that's
so we have some experience in what's involved in doing that, and our friends in the Ubuntu desktop team and the Foundations team have been improving the hooks that exist in the build infrastructure so that it's easier to ship snaps on the image. So at the moment they are simply installed on the image, and you only get them if you install an ISO that had that snap on it, whereas the changes they're making are if you installed, say, a beta and in the final release an additional snap was added, it's seeded like other packages, so you get that package added to your system as part of the upgrade.
As I recall, it was a pulse audio mixer, right? A command line pulse audio mixer?
Yeah. Yeah, it's Pulse Mixer.
Has that gotten much testing, and I know one of the other things I was going to be curious is has it been updated?
It has been updated, yes. Oh. In fact, we did it a few weeks ago. Yeah. So yes, it's been tested by thousands and thousands of people.
Great. So that and now it's been tested to have a Snap desktop application shipped on the distro that gets updated after the distro's release with active users.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good milestone. Yeah, so JJ, you had a question about the beta. Go ahead.
Yeah, so is there any way for me to test out any of the new features of the new version of Mate, possibly? I'm sort of interested since I am a user of Ubuntu Mate.
So you can test any of the daily images for any of the flavors. The URL is cdimage.ubuntu.com, and in there you'll find directories for each of the flavors, and inside there you'll find the release name. It's Bionic at the moment, and in there you'll find a directory Daily Live, and whatever architectures the flavors support you'll find ISO images for in there, and you can download those and install them on spare laptops or VMs or what have you to test them. And then there are also scheduled alpha and beta releases. So when those come around, there's a more organized test schedule for a week around those, where each of the flavor teams are looking for feedback and looking for the bugs that get reported in order to fix and improve.
So it's like all or nothing.
What do you mean? Sorry?
So it's like all or nothing with the image, like you can't really upgrade the actual individual Mate environment, possibly, or?
Oh, you're asking like a current install and go to a new version of Mate?
Yes, you can. You could run through the same process to do a distribution upgrade, and you could upgrade from 1710 to 1804. To be honest with you, we none of the flavors did an alpha 1 that was scheduled to happen January the 4th. For obvious reasons, that didn't happen. The next alpha will be alpha 2, which will be the beginning of February. I think you'd be best to wait until the alphas are out of the way, because there's a lot of things moving at the moment. If you need your machine to be reliable, just avoid 1804 for the moment.
Now you tell me. I started the upgrade before we were starting.
Oh, you're fine. You've got.
I've got a hotline to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Understood.
Yeah. That's a lot of great stuff, Wimpy. Thank you for the update. That's pretty. I want to pick your brain, actually. I've got you. I had an email come into the show from Robert, and he says, in regards to our Linspire discussion last week, he says he loaded up Linspire and then loaded up Xubuntu and looked at GNOME software in both of them, the latest Xubuntu, and he saw a different highlighted selection of applications in Linspire than he did in the machine he was looking at the same time in Xubuntu. And so he wondered, does that mean, is Linspire injecting like their own suggestions into that list, or is it more of like a random rotation with the way GNOME software displays like those featured ones that you guys are curating?
Yeah, there's a list of, say, 16, and like 6 are picked from that to be displayed.
So does GNOME software just do like a random selection?
Yeah, and it rotates, I think, every 24 hours, so it's not particularly rapid in the way that it represents them.
It's confusing. that is actually, okay. And so any Ubuntu flavor or derivative that is shipping GNOME software is likely just using that same list because it's coming from the upstream GNOME software that they're repackaging. So which Linspire would be doing. And so if they were injecting their own list, would they have to be modifying GNOME software? Would it be a fork, or is there just some sources file that they could go...
No. If they were modifying that, they would have to have forked it and made their own version.
So that's hard-coded in. Interesting.
Well, the source of the data is in one of the plugins,
Interesting. I'm learning.
They could certainly choose to ship their own plugin, which points to their own data sources, and they could promote their own applications that they prefer for their target users, that's for sure, or remove the plugins that ship by default on Ubuntu. That's another option. So they can certainly affect the list. That's for sure.
But it's not likely because it takes then a list you have to maintain, right? And is that an XML file up somewhere or RSS feed? What is that?
It's a REST API.
I'm learning over the last week that GNOME software is deceptively complicated. It looks very simple on the front end, but some of this stuff is more complicated than I thought it was. I envision this stuff as sources lists and a simple text file that somebody could just throw an RSS feed in. I mean, no, of course not. Of course, in this day and age, you got to support Flatpaks and snaps and firmware updates and all kinds of things and software channels and plugins. It's all above my pay grade, apparently. I'm just glad it works when it does. So I wanted to take a moment on the show and talk about Emby and Plex again. Oh God, I know I've talked about it too much, but I got to be honest, we actually haven't covered it since 2016 on the show, and things have really changed. In fact, not always for the better either. We'll get to that. Maybe I should start with that so I'm not ending on a super pissed off note. But Chris is a little upset about something. So let's see. When was the last time we covered this here topic here? Yeah, let's see. It was Linux Unplugged. I think it was like 156. So if you dig around in that range, you will get a more comprehensive coverage of what we're about to talk about, including things like Tiny Media Manager and integrating more with Kodi and whatnot. But just really briefly off the top, I've been head-to-head comparing Emby and Plex, which are two different streaming options that allow you to collect a massive media on a file server or on a desktop. I actually have been running these for testing, one just on a workstation and one on a server, a couple different servers actually. Anyways, it is a server-side software that has a client-side piece, and the client-side can run on a Roku, an Android TV, an Apple TV, a web browser, a mobile device, and it allows you to throw a bunch of media up on a server. It scans all of it, figures out the metadata, downloads the information from the internet and artwork and descriptions, and organizes all the seasons for you of your TV shows and your movies. It's quite handy, and it makes you feel like you're living in the future. It's great. And there's two main competitors in this field these days. There's Emby and Plex. And Kodi does fit in here. Like I said, check our past episode for more. But just really briefly, if you're running Kodi today and you're wondering why the hell would you want Emby or Plex, just a quick versus like Kodi. Plex and Emby are not nearly as fast as Kodi. If you're pointing Kodi at some local files on a disk, Kodi is going to whoop its butt in load times and fast forward every single time. And these both require fairly reliable networking, a reliable LAN or Wi-Fi, and a pretty solid internet connection if you're doing streaming. So those are their main detractions from Kodi. But they're also better than Kodi at certain things. Like on my testing, they are better at media detection, getting the right metadata information about esoteric shows that are named something kind of off, identifying a series that maybe isn't quite right. It's much better at that. And obviously, as I started with, it's very easy to use for streaming, for your friends and family. In fact, Plex has a feature called Plex Sharing, which allows you to share with friends and family. You just add them as a buddy. And so like say my buddy Chase from Unfilter, he and I are friends on Plex, and we share each other's libraries. He happens to have episodes of Voyager that I don't have, so if I'm in a mood to go watch Catherine Janeway make out with some Irish guy in Fairhaven on the holodeck, I will just switch over to his Plex server, and I will stream Voyager from his server for a bit. And Emby has something similar to this, and so what I wanted to know, for purposes of this show, which one might be better for the audience, and which one's more open source, as if this is some sort of measuring stick, but which one's more open source? And so I looked at both the Plex project and I looked at the Emby project. And this full credit goes to a discussion that really got kicked off in our Telegram group, where people were asking questions about this and getting clarifications, trying to figure out what parts of Plex are open source, what parts are closed source. I'll say this, for Plex, I was pretty surprised. It's amazing, actually. They have a whole page that goes over all their licensing, but they have everything except for the back-end server part up on their GitHub page. And it's all kinds of crazy. You realize what a project this must be when you just go through their GitHub page and look at all of the frickin' projects that they're contributing to or have forked for Plex. And one of the ones that's on here that I was really happy to see, and I didn't know this before I really did the digging, even though I use this, guess I'm not that observant. The Plex for Kodi add-on is developed by the Plex project. Plex folks are actually creating that add-on for Kodi. So if you prefer to use Kodi for playback but wanted to connect to your Plex database, Kodi's actually writing that plugin. Or I mean, the Plex people are actually writing that plugin. So it's about as official as it gets. But how did it compare to Emby, which essentially has a similar feature set to Plex? A couple of differences in how they're implemented for sure. Plex is simpler, maybe slightly more user-friendly, but Emby's more flexible, it's completely open source, and it feels more like a self-contained application. It's not off in the weeds connected to like online news streaming, and it just feels like something that just is simple. I actually prefer it for my LAN streaming, and I use Plex for my internet streaming. Everything regarding Emby is open source. The front end, the back end, I believe perhaps the Android apps might not be, but the server, the web client, some of the secret sauce it uses to stream all of that is open source. And both of these projects have a revenue model. Plex sells the Plex Pass, and Emby sells Emby Premium. In Emby's case, it's a little more of a, hey, thanks for being awesome. Here's $5. You get a couple other things like some nice file syncing features with Emby if you become a premium member. Plex Pass has been getting more and more appealing. You can buy a monthly or a one-time, and you get nicer features. You get to be in the beta channel. You can use their Plex Cloud streaming service. It's nice. It's kind of worth it. I bought they had a sale 2 years ago or something, and I bought a lifetime subscription. Just done. And these are obviously vital avenues for these two different projects, whichever one you might like or not like, to stay afloat. But one of them is being attacked by the very open source community it serves. Emby is being eaten from within its own open source community. And I feel like this is a warning sign that is going to stop other projects from ever doing a fully open source project. It's going to lock in this model, potentially, of a closed source proprietary server component and only open sourcing bits and pieces here. And if nothing else, the least of which is going to happen, is the Plex group will be able to look at this incident and point at this incident and say, this is why we will never 100% open source everything. We will never do it. We never have to. This is why. This is now the ultimate justification. And you got to look at this and you got to wonder if maybe this isn't a fundamental flaw of open source. So one user of Emby got really pissed off. Kind of for legitimate reasons, but where he goes with it fundamentally is going to undermine Emby's revenue source. And I don't recommend anybody install this because these projects need to be funded or else they're going to go away. And somebody created an Emby Unlocked project, which just gives you all of the premium features for free. Because why not? It's just open source, right? So at some point, the Emby developers added a nag screen before playback that reminded you that you could get Emby Premium. I've never seen that because pretty quickly, like my first couple of days into Emby testing a long time ago, I bought Emby Premium because I thought this is a good project. It offers good competition to Plex. I like seeing that. I want to keep them going, so I paid for it. I've never seen this nag screen. And I admit, if I saw a nag screen, I wouldn't like that. And the community did ask them to stop, and they basically said no. And this guy, this is a quote, says, "This is bullshit. For the GPL2, it's a GPL2 licensed product. This is bullshit that they're doing this." And his justification is, because it's a GPL2 project. How dare they? And so I decided that I would just go remove the nag screen. But in the process of removing the nag screen, I discovered that unlocking all of the premium features was just the simplest way. So here you go. And there's a AUR. Of course, you can just get a Docker image of an entire Emby server that's been pre-activated for premium, ready to go, just a Docker install away, which is actually a pretty common way for people to try out these projects. So that actually really sucks because that gets same billing as the actual Emby project in Docker Hub. And if more people start downloading this, it'll actually show up higher in the ranks. And what would prevent what prevents anybody doing this to any other project that's completely open source that has some sort of revenue system where you can unlock additional features? It feels like this fundamentally validates the fear of a lot of developers who've been looking at coming over to Linux and can't quite figure out how they get the licensing right. Well, we just validated their fears with this. I don't know. Maybe I'm to me, this is just so upsetting to see this because if we make it impossible for people to make money at open source, all we're going to have left is commercial stuff and Electron apps and proprietary backends, and this problem is never going to get any better. It's pretty disappointing. So don't install it. Don't use it. Or if you do, also send them a few bucks. I mean, it's one patch. This guy just applies one patch and it unlocks all of the features. And maybe the Emby project could obfuscate their code. I don't know. Mumble Remove, what do you think? Is this something that is addressable?
This is not the first time this has happened. Other projects have suffered with this in the past. I remember this happening in the subsonic community,
right?
For much the same reasons. And there was another one as well recently. It may have been Emby. I think Mark talked about this on the Ubuntu podcast. The whole nag screen thing.
Yeah, Subsonic's a great example of that. That's a great example. Yeah. It feels bad. It feels really bad. It feels like it just takes one pissed off open source user that knows how to fix this thing, and then you've just undermined an entire business that has multiple employees, many employees. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so it sort of reminds me a little bit about the email clients as well, having this sort of similar conflict, I guess, with regards to supporting certain email protocols such as Exchange and all that. That makes any sense?
Yeah, I do follow what you mean there. Where there's sort of like premium features and whatnot, and additional add-ons that they sometimes have to pay licenses for, and whatnot. Just to wrap up. So head-to-head here, my takeaway is if streaming to smart devices and streaming between friends, or streaming to family members that maybe kind of just have like a typical network setup, they're not really doing port forwarding. Plex is the way. If you need those things, Plex is the way to go. If you don't need those things, I would really give a hearty endorsement these days for Emby. It's got a couple of things I'm not a huge fan of over remote connections. I've even had problems where I've punched a hole through my firewall. We got port forwarding going to the right box, and yet for some reason my remote MB system still can't connect. Whereas with Plex, it'll do a relay if it has to make that work. But if I'm using the two different products on my LAN, I find MB to be faster on the same exact hardware, doing a head-to-head, same hardware, same server. I find MB to be faster. I prefer the way it displays some information. Plex has been abstracting away your individual episodes more and more and trying to boost things into new arrivals and trending and all these different things that make it feel like YouTube that I just hate, whereas MB feels more like, here's your stuff, here's your season, just go. And then the creme de la creme mode for me, the perfect setup here has been now, and this is since 2016, so it's really kind of bared out, is if I can, Android TV running Kodi with the MB or Plex plugin, depending on which particular media pool I'm pulling from, connected to wired storage. So in my case, it's a QNAP that has hardware accelerated decoding. I've reviewed the QNAP in the past. You can install codecs from its app store. You get hardware accelerated decoding. I can be streaming multiple boxes, no problem. My NAS is still fully responsive. There's no big, huge, loud server anywhere. It's an Android TV and a QNAP, and it's glorious. And both MB and Plex can run on it just fine, and so it's really great to do head-to-head comparison on. And what I walk away with, I at the end of the day, I'm going to go with the GPL2 product if everything else is coming up equal, and I'm watching on the LAN. I'm going with MB, and so I have this setup now where when I'm just watching something off my hard drive, I'm watching something here at the studio. We do the same thing here at the studio LAN. It's watched over MB, and then when we watch something remotely, we watch over Plex. And I know that sounds crazy, but they just point at the same files anyways. You know, it's not like I have two sets of all my movies or TV shows, so it works out pretty well. I really have. I've come to love this setup in a way that I've never quite achieved with my media setups in the past. And I spent money on all kinds of things. I even took a weird dark turn down the Windows Media Center lane where they had these Media Center front-end boxes from like Linksys and whatnot that were trying to get to that hardware appliance style, and it wasn't there. It just wasn't there. It was horrible, and also Windows. And this has finally been it. Anyways, I have links to all of the MB stuff, including the open source projects, the Kodi plugins, and that goodness in the show notes. Before we get off the topic of MB or Plex, Beer, are you setting up a new Plex server? What's your plans there? What are you doing? Because
I need hardware first.
Why not just run it on? See, that's the thing is, why not just run it on your workstation if you have it on all the time? It's not like you're watching TV while you're gaming.
First of all, I don't have a TV.
Well, okay, but you know what I mean. It's not like your machine's going to be decoding video files while you're playing a video game and streaming, because you're going to be playing video games and streaming. So I recently tried it out on Workstation for different testing of versions, and I realized it's great. Having it right there on my desktop is great because I can hook up a USB disk and I can add that, and I can download something immediately and have it scan my downloads folder. So for like a full week, I'm just running it off my Workstation. And
well, you say that, but while I'm streaming, the girlfriend could be watching videos.
All right, Popey. Popey says he's caught me in a hypocrisy loop. What have I done wrong, Popey? Set me straight here.
So the argument is we should not patch out and make it easy for people to use content, as in MB or whatever piece of software that somebody else has developed and is trying to make some money out of. And that's a bad thing. But the chances are what people are using MB for is downloaded TV programs that they probably didn't have the rights to to watch. So
right, yeah.
How is that rationalized in your mind?
Well, in my view, because the product itself, MB, was still fully functional, right? It was just that nag screen, which does sound super annoying, but it wasn't as if it couldn't say like playback MKVs without the Premiere feature. It just would say, "Hey, did you know we have a Premiere feature?" And then you click play. It
wasn't that part. It was more the part that, hey, you guys out there, you should pay for this thing that someone has worked hard for, in order to watch this thing that you've stolen, in inverted commas, that somebody else has worked hard for, TV programs and films, right?
Yeah, no, I follow what your question was. I was just trying to say, like, if MB had disabled the product and made it like, so in my case, take Star Trek Discovery. I download Star Trek Discovery every single Sunday as fast as I possibly can, and I watch it via MB or Plex, depending on the setup. But I also am a CBS All Access subscriber. Same with House of Cards. I'm a Netflix subscriber. I don't ever watch it on Netflix because it's ass. I just prefer to watch it on my TV. And I have a MiFi. So you're right. It is up to the individual what the morality is. And you're right. It's also not surprising that people that are comfortable stealing a lot of content would be comfortable stealing the product to watch the content. That does make sense. I feel like it's self-harm though. If you download Game of Thrones, you're not putting Game of Thrones out of business. But if you fundamentally undermine the way for Emby to monetize Emby, they will go out of business, and they'll be gone. And then you'll have no way to watch your stolen TV shows. So it's sort of like pissing in your own well.
Right.
But you do bring up a good point. And I wonder what the audience would say about that too. Let us know. Tweet me at ChrisLES or leave a comment on the YouTubes so we can all read it, or linuxunplugged.reddit.com. Now we got to go because the Ask Noah program is just around the corner. Mr. Noah, what's coming up on the Ask Noah over there?
Dude, we got so many cool things we're going to be talking about. We're talking about high-resolution audio.
Ooh.
And I know there's somebody out there, and they're going to be like, that's snake oil. And then there's the other half of your audience that's like, no, that he finally caught on.
Yeah.
And so you're going to find out which one it is.
High-resolution audio under Linux. Is it possible, or is it snake oil? Interesting. Now, rumor has it that there may be a topic expert coming on the show to discuss it with you as well.
There is. Anytime we dive into a topic, we go find the person in the industry that knows more than anyone else. And in that case, when it comes to hi-fi audio, as I was telling you last night, there is nobody else other than Bob Carver. I mean, he's just the guy when it comes to hi-fi audio.
That's sort of a pretty good get. You did. Nobody networks like Noah. Nobody does. I gotta say it. It really it plays to your advantage sometimes. Well done, sir. It's good job.
I have friends in high places.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And so now we're doing the Ask Noah program and the Unplugged program back to back. So you come over to jblive.tv on a Tuesday. You can hang out with our virtual lug and all these wonderful gentlemen, and we'd love to have some wonderful ladies in there. And then you stick around and watch some content and hear the extra live stuff that doesn't make it in the published version. And then you keep watching and get Ask Noah. It's like a whole week, or like a whole afternoon, evening, depending on morning, your time zone, block of Linux live with your participation, because we got the Mumble Room on the Unplugged program, and then we got your live calls on Ask Noah, and from time to time, rumor has it there will even be some Mumble participation in Ask Noah, which is probably difficult every time you have a guest. So every time I say that, you got a guest, but...
Yeah, well, actually, so Bob is not computer technically savvy, so he'll be joining us over phone. So we can have Mumble today, yeah. But we call it the Linux sandwich.
Is that what we call it? Oh, good to know. Good. Go get yourself a Patreon account and go over to patreon.com/Ubuntu_Mate to support some of the fine work that Mr. Wimpress is doing with the Ubuntu Mate project. And a lot of times that stuff funds stuff that just goes upstream to Mate as well. So Ubuntu_Mate at patreon.com. Of course, we're Jupiter Signal. And they're off right now. They may never return, they say. But if you'd like to catch the backlog, go check out the Ubuntu podcast. There's some great episodes posted over there. They're on season break right now. Is curry and beer been scheduled, gentlemen? Is that...
No. Not yet. We've had a pre-curry, but we haven't had curry.
I understand. Okay. The pre-curry, huh? You got to... Do you have a post-curry too? Is there going to be a post-curry?
You need to, flex your stomach muscles before you go for the proper curry.
So that way, when you're ready to have a real serious discussion, you're warmed up. You've trained up.
Yep.
It's like a marathon. I understand. All right, guys. Well, thanks for being here. And thank you, audience, for being here. And hopefully Mr. West will be back to health next week. In the meantime, go get him at West Payne on the Twitter and get more of him at the TechSnap program, techsnap.systems. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm at ChrisLES. The network is at Jupiter Signal. Our subreddit is linuxunplugged.reddit.com. And you can email the show, jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact. Thank you, Robert, for emailing us this week. And everybody else. I had more emails queued up, but they were for Wes. So maybe we'll get those when he comes back next week. And again, those live times, jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you right back here next week on the Unplugged program. See you next Tuesday!
I've never installed GNU/Linux.
Get it out of here.
Get the hell out of here. While you're laughing, the hackers are
dropping malware into your system.
All right, let's see if we can title this thing before Noah takes over the airwaves. UABtitles.com. You can still submit. You can also submit in the Discord, discord.me/JupiterColony. I'll be searching that. Let's go pick a title, and then we'll get out of here, and Noah will take us away to Ask Noah Land. Bang suggest. Thank you, gentlemen. Sorry the Barton stuff isn't live in the show, but it will be in the published version. So it'll be right after the Ting spot. So just go look for the Ting spot, and then right after that will be the Barton interview, I believe, if you want to catch it, post on YouTubes or something. JBTitles.com. See, I don't see any title suggestions. We go. Bannon's. Nope, that's for Unfiltered. What? What the heck? Nobody suggested that. Really? Is that a thing? I don't say it one week, and so nobody does it. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Well, nothing was catchy during our part of the stream.
That's true. It probably should. You're right. It probably should be around the laptop thing, huh? Around Barton. All right, I'll have to just come up with something clever. Damn it, I hate being clever. Okay, that's fair enough. You guys got me there. I can't blame you. It's actually all completely my fault, which is just the worst. Just the worst. I am so hooked, JJ, on Indian food. I'm actually taking a break right now, so that way when Noah comes in here, I'm not burned out, because otherwise...
Attaboy.
Yeah, I'm doing that for you, Brown Bear.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That makes me happy.
Yep, and I've already warned Angela that there will be a business expense of of butter chicken and stuff.
No, refuses to come unless you buy him Indian food.
That's the reason why I'm sort of trying to explain a little bit.
Yeah, it's I would imagine it's delicious, but man, I don't know. There's something about just something about that butter chicken. Now, you're gonna have to tell me, Noah, what you think, but there's something about it that's just it's healing.
I had it on Friday. Me and Wimpy met up with one of our guys from the community and spent the day co-working in a library in near where Wimpy lives, and then we went out for curry in the evening, and it was so good.
Man,
so good.
I wish.
Funny story.
Go ahead.
I have a funny story relating to Indian food, but you can finish first.
I was just gonna say, Popey, it's sometime when you're out here, it would take a long time because it's like an hour. Well, no, it's like 50 minutes. Well, an hour, depending on traffic.
Dude, I'm going to be in Seattle in like a week.
I know, but do you think you could break away for like 3 hours or so? Because we'd have to come all the way up north to go to this place. Then there's the time to eat, and then the time to get back. That's the problem. But it is. I've traveled around some places, and I've never had Indian food better than, at least here in the States that I've traveled to, than this place. It's just so good. I just bought 6 of them. I went in and bought 6 butter chickens at once last week and ate it for 4 days or something like that.
It's that good.
The best curry I've ever had is in Japan.
Oh yeah, really? Okay.
Yeah, they make some awesome Indian curry in Japan.
I imagine there's something that surpasses it. I mean, there must be.
What about Indian curry in Japan?
Yeah, the best, he said. The best curry in Japan.
Yeah, the best curry ever is in Japan.
I don't know if I agree with the best curry ever, but they do have some really, really motivated Indian people in Japan that make some good food. I'm not kidding. I mean, they make...
What does that mean? Motivated Indian people.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. You have to understand something about cuisine, right? So think about this. In the U.S., it's easy to make even the worst Indian food passes as amazing here because Americans are more or less...
does it seem to.
Bland. Yeah, they're just bland. I mean, because every American food is just bland. But when you go to Japan and you have they're competing on a different culinary level, now you have to have a really motivated Indian person if you're going to make it there.
I mean,
spot on.
Nowadays,
you're right there, Noah, because their national food is like just so top notch.
Yeah,
better than Western food.
Yeah,
I mean, dude, they make like a lifetime career out of really good noodles. I mean, that's the kind of level you're competing at.
Yeah, that is true.
Also, I think America's catching on with some of the umami craze and all the other stuff. With Chris Kimball's new venture, Milk Street, he's trying to bring a lot of flavor to the party, and also a lot of the other television shows are trying to.
Every time we do this, guys, I end up buying Indian food after the show.
You should buy Indian food.
This is costing me
Get Thai food.
It's the responsible thing to do.
Get Thai food.
This is a bucket list item for me now.
Yeah, get Thai food.
It's the responsible thing to do.
Yeah, Eric, if you're up in Mount Vernon area, you got to go to Taste of India.
We need to get you over here.